Welcome to Dr. P.C. Verma Economist YouTube class. Discuss topics related to UPSC economics, mains, and BPSC Bihar State Finance Service, and others civil other states, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, economics optional paper that is being covered. Today, we are discussing monetary policy and inflation. This is in the context of views of James M. Buchanan and Richard Wagner in book Democracy in Deficit, The Political Legacy of Lord Keynes. Buchanan and Wagner tried to establish the fact that Keynesian revolution, which started in 1932, continued in America and other countries to remove depression, Great Depression problem of unemployment. We all know that during Great Depression of 1930s, in the USA, there were 160 lakh people unemployed, retrenched from the job. And in the UK, 30 lakh people became unemployed. In Germany, 60 lakh people became unemployed. Therefore, 1930s depression is known as Great Depression because it has created mass unemployment in the economy. Investors, entrepreneurs are not willing to invest, and there is a standstill. How to remove this unemployment in the USA and other state countries? President Roosevelt of the USA invited Keynes and sought solution. Keynes has shown solutions. First, Keynes diagnosis of the problem, and then Keynes provide prescriptions to cure this Great Depression. That was the direct action. Government control, government expenditure, government actions were considered to be a direct role of the government in order to cure this. We all know that in classical economics, in classical public religion, there was no interference of government in economic activities. That was free economy. And that brought about this depression. So Keynes said that it is better to end laissez-faire, and there should be a state intervention to cure unemployment as soon as possible. And for that, direct government expenditure to cure unemployment was suggested by Keynes. Keynes believed in spending more and more and solving the problem of unemployment. On the other hand, there was pessimism in the mindset of private investors, capitalist investors. They are not willing to invest because they were guided by profit. They are guided by the positive returns of the investment. Even if interest rate is constant, they had no willingness to invest. And so Ken said that it is only alternative that government interference, end of the laissez-faire and government interference in the economy, government spending will create employment opportunities, and that became successful. So this was known as Keynesian revolution. Everywhere there is a Keynesian economist policy, Keynesian revolution created. Mr. Buchanan is a Nobel Prize winner economist. He has always developed the theory of public choice, and his intention was to specific to say that the Keynesian era ended. In his book, he has written, Buchanan has written that Keynesian revolution came in 1930s and it worked in the America and it ended by 1977. And after 1977, either new Keynesian, post-Keynesian era started. And that era is not only saying the state government interference or government expenditure, public debt problem arises. Buchanan said that public debt is good for the present government, but it will be burden on posterity, future generation. Therefore, it is not wise to go for more and more public debt and putting the burden of the public debt on posterity and future generation. He suggested the method of creation of money. Creation of money is the power with the Federal Reserve System, with the RBI, with the central bank of the country. Printing of notes, printing of notes and spending for the purpose curing unemployment or boosting the economy and development of the country. That was the suggestion of Buchanan and Richard Wagner. In this light, we are now discussing monetary policy. We all know that there are two policies, monetary policy and fiscal policy. Nobel Prize winner economist J.R. Hicks says that ISLM model, macro model, ISLM macro model. What is IS? Investment equal to saving, and that is known as fiscal policy. Investment can be affected by fiscal policy by government interference through the budget. So I is equal to S is guided by fiscal policy. And then Hicks said that L is equal to M, LM. L is equal to M is guided by central bank of the economy. And for example, in America, Federal Reserve System is a central bank. In India, Reserve Bank of India is a central bank. So they have power to create money creation. So Buchanan stressed upon money creation for the development growth of the economy. And in that case, he discussed about monetary policy and its effect upon inflation. Nowadays also we are finding out the policy, monetary policy, monetary committee meeting about the activities, how to control inflation, keep inflation under control. Economist discussion of built-in flexibility and of budget balance at some hypothetical level of national income stemmed from two separate sources. First was the recognition that Discretionary budget management simply was not within the spirit of the time. And the second and equally important source of the newfound emphasis lay in the dramatically modified historical setting. Keynesian economics and the policy precept it embodied was developed almost exclusively in the application of depressed national income. With high unemployment, excess industrial capacity, and little or no upward pressure on prices. But the years after World War II were, by contrast, years of rapidly increasing output, near full employment, and inflationary movements in prices. The Keynesian elevation of the budget to its position as the dominant instrument for the macroeconomic policy, along with parallel relegation of monetary policy to a subsidiary role, was based in large part and on the alleged presence of liquidity trap during the periods of deep depression. The basic model was asymmetrical, however, for nothing in Keynesian analysis suggested that monetary control could not be effectively applied to dampen inflationary threats. Properly interpreted, Keynesian analysis does not imply that money does not matter. It implies that money matters asymmetrically. High interest rates offer, in this analysis, one means of choking off the inflationary boom, but the policy instrument need to be dusted off and utilized if, in fact, fiscal precepts are adhered to in boom times as well as bust. Immediately after World War II, the Keynesian economists came close to convincing the Truman-era politicians that a permanent regime of low interest rate, easy money, could at long last be realized. But the fiscal counterpart to such an easy money regime, one that required the accumulation of bursting surpluses, did not really come into being. As the inflationary threat seemed to worsen, money and monetary control were discovered in practice in 1951 in the USA, along with the incorporation of policy asymmetry into the discussions and the textbooks of the time. You cannot push the string. This analogy suggested that monetary policy was an appropriate instrument for for restricting total spending in inappropriate for spending it. The one-sided incorporation of monetary policy instruments makes difficult our attempt to trace the in the political without the dramatic shift in the potential for monetary policy that came with the Treasury Federal Reserve Accord in 1951 be in the USA. We might simply look at the record for Eisenhower years to determine the extent to which the Keynesian fiscal policy precepts were honored. But the shift did occur, and there need have been nothing especially non-Keynesian about using the policy instrument asymmetrically over the cycle. A regime with alternative period of easy budgets and tight money suggested a way station between the rhetoric of the old-time fiscal religion and the Keynesian esprit of 1960s and 1970s. The economists the economist discussions of built-in flexibility, built-in flexibility and of budget balance and of budget balance at some hypothetical level, at some hypothetical level of national income. Stemmed from stemmed from two separate sources. The first was the recognition that this discretionary budget management budget management simply was not within the spirit of a spirit a spirit of the times. Times. The second, and equally important equally equally important source of the newfound source of the newfound source of the newfound emphasis lay in the dramatically modified historical setting. Historical setting. Keynesian economics, Keynesian economics and the policy precepts policy precepts policy precepts it embodied it embodied was developed was developed almost almost exclusively exclusively in application to a depressed to a depressed national economy. National economy with high unemployment, with high unemployment, excess industrial capacity, excess industrial capacity, and and little or no or no upward upward pressures upward pressures on prices, but but the years after World War II, after World War II, where by contrast years of years of rapidly increasing rapidly increasing output near full employment, near full employment, and inflationary movements, movements in prices. The Keynesian elevation of the budget, of the budget to its position, to its position, budget to its position as the dominant, as a dominant instrument for instrument for the macroeconomic policy, for the macroeconomic policy, macroeconomic parallel along with the parallel relegation, parallel relegation of monetary policy, of monetary policy to a subsidiary role, to a subsidiary role, was was based in was based in large part large part on the alleged presence on the alleged alleged presence of a liquidity trap during during the period of during the period during the periods of deep depression, deep depression. The basic model the basic model was asymmetrical. The basic model was asymmetrical. However, for nothing. However, for nothing, for nothing in nothing in Keynesian analysis. Keynesian analysis suggested that monetary controls would not be would would not be could not be effectively applied. Effectively could not be effectively applied. Effectively applied to dampen to dampen inflationary threats. Inflationary threats. Inflationary threats. Properly interpreted. Properly properly interpreted. Properly interpreted Keynesian analysis Keynesian analysis does not imply that money does not matter. That money does not apply. Money does not matter. Money does not matter. It implies It implies that money matters, that money money matters asymmetrically. Money matters asymmetrically. High high interest rates offer high interest rate offer in this analysis in this analysis one means one means of choking of choking of and an inflationary boom. But this policy instrument, but this policy policy instrument, but this policy instrument need not need not need not be dusted. But this policy instrument need not be dusted. Dusted off and utilized and utilized utilized dusted off and utilized if in fact fiscal policy fiscal policy precepts are adhered. policy precepts are adhered to in boom time, in boom times as well as bust. Time as well as bust. Immediately immediately after World War II, after World War II, the Keynesian economist Keynesian economists Keynesian economists came close came close to convincing to convincing the true man, the true man era, true man era politician. That a permanent regime permanent regime of low interest rate, of low low interest rate. Of easy money. Easy money could at long could at long last be realized. At long last be realized. Realized. But the fiscal counterpart, but the fiscal counterpart to such an such an such an easy money easy money such as easy money regime one that one that required one that required the accumulation of budgetary surpluses did not did not readily readily come into being come into being. As the inflationary as the inflationary threat seemed to worsen, seemed to worsen. Money and monetary control. Money and monetary control were rediscovered, were rediscovered in practice. In practice in 1951. In 1951. Along with along with the incorporation, the incorporation मंदिर है यहाँ ये बढ़िया है ये यहाँ हो गया BNR का यहीं पर यहीं से घुसना है डॉक्टर नारायण तो घुसेगा पहला राइट प्रकार में आया है काम सब किया नहीं सबको है उसमें क्या एक लड़का है अक्सर जिसका नाम है उसी को 2 आदमी के साथ भेजेंगे 3 आदमी रहेगा सब क्योंकि 2 आदमी से होगा नहीं आपको जाके पड़ता यहाँ क्या पूरा प्रोग्रेस चल रहा ना काम सब का वाला सब अरे डेवलप किया पूरा जो है तो बहुत है कि हम बहुत एक्टिव हैं लेकिन जो भी आपका काम तो बहुत अच्छा ना है बस यही आपका आशीर्वाद है बस यही मेंटेन करना चाहते हैं हम अपने हिसाब से करते हैं कि 50 वर्ष की दुकानदारी भी अगर कहीं गलत काम करता है तो 50 वर्ष का क्या इसी होगा सब क्या सब कोई मतलब नहीं आप क्या आ रहे हैं अपने नंबर अपना लीजिए कोई दिक्कत नहीं दो पता है एक आध घंटे में आ जाए 6 घंटे 2 घंटे में आ जाएगा मुजफ्फरपुर वाला का क्या सोचे हैं उसका जाके नाप लेंगे पढ़ा देंगे हम मिस्त्री को भेज देंगे सब नाप लेगा जो फिट होने लायक होगा फिट कर देगा जो वहाँ फर्स्ट फ्लोर में वही सब बनवाया कोई तो हम कहे कि भाई 5 खाना बना दिया हम कहे कि ऊपर वाला जो है वो मतलब कोई हाथ वाला जो है उसी में लगा देगा तो अपना रहेगा जगह वो रेंट तरह भी नहीं लगा हुआ करेंगे बहुत क्वेश्चन लगता है अरे भाई वो मनी आएगा तो खर्च जो है बहुत फालतू व्यवस्था थोड़ी है वो हैंड टू माउथ जितना भी 10,000 रखे हुआ है वो टक्के लगा रखा है यहाँ फीस है सर सर हम अपने हम 4 ताला बनाएंगे अपने वाइफ को नर्स रहती है कुछ किराया पड़ दिया उसी में वहाँ पर 4 ताला जो है पूरा बना के 5वां में सीढ़ी गड़बड़ बना के करता है तो वो दिए हुए हैं और ऊपर वाला हम चाहते हैं कि आपके रहेगा वो फट से करके उसके और वहाँ बहुत मच्छर का प्रॉब्लम रहता है जाल लगाना वेरी गुड मॉर्निंग गाड़ी कहाँ में नौतान के पास जाएंगे अभी आए हैं सर यहाँ प्रोफेसर पीसी वर्मा साहब के यहाँ उनका कुछ है परेशानी की टाइप का तो ठीक कर देंगे आप हम लोग आगे ठीक है अभी नौतान से बात हुआ है उसको भी दे देंगे गाड़ी बना के भेजेगा ठीक है ठीक 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 थैंक यू बेटा ठीक है आपको विद्या के सब कुछ है सर मैं उसको फॉलो करते नहीं अच्छा along with the incorporation along with the incorporation along with the incorporation along with the incorporation of a policy corporation of a along with the incorporation of a policy, along with the incorporation of a policy, a symmetry, along with the incorporation of a policy, a symmetry into the into the discussion, the discussions and the textbooks and the text books of the time, textbook of the time. You cannot push you cannot push on a string. You cannot push on a string. This analogy this analogy suggested that monetary policy monetary policy and was an appropriate instrument appropriate instrument was an appropriate instrument for restricting for restricting total spending total restricting total spending but inappropriate, in appro inappropriate for spending it, for X expend inappropriate spending, total spending, but inappropriate for expanding it. You cannot push on a string. This analogy suggested that monetary policy was an appropriate instrument was for restricting total spending, but inappropriate for expanding it. Monetary policy was an appropriate instrument for restricting total spending, but inappropriate for expanding it. For expanding it. This one-sided incorporation, this one-sided incorporation, one-sided incorporation of monetary policy of the one-sided incorporation of monetary policy, the one-sided incorporation of monetary policy instruments, policy instrument this one-sided incorporation of monetary policy instruments makes difficult our attempt to trace the conversion the conversion trace the conversion of conversion of politicians conversion of politicians to Keynesian ideas. To Keynesian ideas. Without the dramatic shift without the dramatic shift without dramatic shift in the potential in the potential without the dramatic shift in the potential for monetary policy for monetary policy for monetary policy potential for the monetary policy that came with that came with the treasury with the treasury federal reserve accord in 1951. We might simply we might simply look at the record at the record at the for the Eisenhower 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 years to determine the extent the extent the extent to which the extent to the Keynesian fiscal policy Keynesian fiscal Keynesian fiscal policy precepts were precept fiscal policy precept were honored. Fiscal policy precept were fiscal policy were honored. But the shift did occur. But the shift did occur. And their need occur. Their need and their need have been nothing nothing specifically 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 non-Keynesian. Non-Keynesian about about using the policy about the about the about using about about using the policy instrument, the policy instruments asymmetrically, a symmetry symmetrically over the cycle, over the cycle. A regime with alternating with alter with alternating with alternating periods, with alternating alternating periods of easy budgets, easy budgets and tight money and tight tight money suggested suggested a way suggested a way, a station between between the between the rhetoric of the old time old time fiscal fiscal religion, and the Keynesian esprit of the 1960s and 1970s. Thus, we come to the conclusion that monetary policy and inflation in the age of Lord Keynes and interpretation by Buchanan and Wagner in his book Democracy in a Deficit, the Political Legacy of Lord Keynes. But all discussions related to two separate sources. First was the recognition of that discretionary budget management simply was not within the spirit of the times. And second, an equally important source of the newfound emphasis lay in the dramatic modified historical setting, Keynesian economics, and the policy precepts it embodied was developed exclusively in application to a depressed economy with high unemployment, excess industrial capacity, and little or no upward pressure on prices during the Great Depression of 1930. But the years after World War II were, by contrast, years of rapidly increasing output, near full employment, and inflationary movement in prices. So, Keynesian elevation of the budget to the position as the dominant instrument for macroeconomic policy, along with the parallel relegation of monetary policy to a subsidiary role, was based in large part on the alleged presence of liquidity trap during the period of Great Depression. So, liquidity trap diagram I draw here. Liquidity trap diagram is shown. पूछे क्या मोबाइल देखने मिलेंगे क्या? क्या इंटरेस्ट इंटरेस्ट स्पेलिंग
Interest is spelled Interest.
define liquidity trap Thus, we find that liquidity trap is an adverse economic situation that can occur when consumers and investors hoard consumers. Liquidity trap is an adverse economic situation that can occur when consumers and investors hoard cash rather than spend or invest it, even when interest rates are low, estimating efforts by policymakers to stimulate economic growth. So this was given by Keynes. So this is what we have discussed: monetary policy and inflation. At last, those who are watching this must like it, subscribe it. I am Dr. P.C. Verma, economist, professor of economics in Patna University, retired in 2016, and thereafter I am teaching for UPSC economics and state civil services, where economics is optional, offered. Today we have discussed monetary policy and inflation in context with Buchanan and Wagner analysis in his book, Democracy in Deficit, The Political Legacy of Lord Keynes. Buchanan is not favoring Keynesian economics in the present day. And in this analysis, Buchanan and Wagner has given remarkable discussion that Keynesian revolution started in 1930s during Great Depression in the USA, in UK, Germany. In USA, 160 lakh people became unemployed. In England, in United Kingdom, 30 lakh people become unemployed. In Germany, 60 lakh people become unemployed. And investors are not ready to invest. Entrepreneurs are pessimistic. There is pessimism all around, and their expectations are pessimistic. And therefore, even though the interest rate is low, they are not ready to invest. So Keynesian prescription was for government, that government should invest. Government must invest. There must be more and more money spending by government, taking even public debt and taking managing money. But government must spend money directly to create employment, and that was clicked. Keynesian theory became successful. All unemployed got employment within 2-3 years all over the country. And therefore, it was known as Keynesian Revolution. This Keynesian Revolution, as Buchanan and Wagner say, that this Keynesian Revolution worked during that time, but gradually it declined in 1977. There is the end of the Keynesian revolution, and there is a new Keynesian or post-Keynesian or new Keynesian, such type of things are there. And Wagner and Buchanan came to the conclusion that there is no need of a government to depend upon public debt, because taking debt and spending in the economy for economic growth, this will lead to burden on the future generation. Today's public debt will be future generations' burden. So it is better to print notes. This is the power of the central bank, to print notes and spend it for any project. So money creation is better than public debt, taking for the purpose of economic growth, removal of unemployment in the economy. That's all. Thank you. Like it, subscribe it, share it.